In early 1692, the village of Salem in Massachusetts was a quiet, Puritan settlement. The winters were long, the people deeply religious, and suspicion ran deep in every corner. Then suddenly, something strange began to happen. A group of young girls, including Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, started to convulse, scream, and claim they were tormented by witches. The local doctor could find no physical cause. His diagnosis: the devil had arrived in Salem. The accusations began immediately. First, it was outsiders, women who lived on the margins of society. Tituba, an enslaved woman from the Caribbean. Sarah Good, a homeless beggar. Sarah Osborne, who hadn't attended church in months. Within weeks, their names were spoken in court. Tituba confessed under pressure. She claimed the devil had asked her to serve him, and that others in Salem were witches too. That confession opened the floodgates. Suddenly, everyone was a suspect. Act 1. Hysteria takes hold. In a matter of weeks, the village descended into chaos. Ordinary people, farmers, housewives, ministers were accused of consorting with demons. The Puritan belief system left no room for doubt. If you were accused of witchcraft, you had to prove your innocence or die. The courts allowed spectral evidence, dreams, visions, or spirits that only the accuser could see. There were no defense attorneys, no rights, no presumption of innocence. The accused were questioned for hours, sometimes days. Many were tortured or pressured into confessing, often naming others in the process. Confessing could spare your life for now. Denying often meant execution. Between June and September of 1692, 19 people were hanged, and one man, Giles Corey, was crushed to death by stones, refusing to speak. His final words were, "More weight." Act 2. The Court of Oyer and Terminer. Massachusetts Governor William Phips set up a special court, the Court of Oyer and Terminer. It was meant to quickly deal with the growing number of accused witches. Presided over by magistrates like William Stockton, the court relied heavily on emotion, fear, and spectral claims. One of the most haunting trials was that of Rebecca Nurse, a respected 71-year-old grandmother. She was kind, generous, and deeply religious, but that didn't save her. She was accused, tried, and condemned, even after initial signs she might be found innocent. Her execution shocked the community. Even George Burroughs, a former Salem minister, was hanged. Moments before his death, he recited the Lord's Prayer flawlessly, something believed impossible for a witch. Still, he was killed. The hangings were public. Families wept. Neighbors stayed silent out of fear they'd be next. Act 3. Cracks in the system. By autumn, doubts began to rise. Accusations were flying in every direction, including toward the governor's wife. Prominent ministers began to speak out. Increase Mather, father of Cotton Mather, declared, "It were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than one innocent person be condemned." The tide turned. In October 1692, the special court was dissolved. A new court was formed, the Superior Court of Judicature, and spectral evidence was no longer allowed. Most of the remaining accused were acquitted, but the damage had been done. Act 4. Legacy and repentance. In the years that followed, survivors and families of the victims demanded justice. Many confessed they had lied or acted under pressure. The colony declared a day of fasting and repentance in 1697. In 1706, Ann Putnam Jr., one of the original accusers, made a public apology. "I desire to lie in the dust and be humbled for it. It was a great delusion of Satan." Eventually, compensation was paid to some families, but no amount of silver could bring back the dead. In 2001, more than 300 years later, the state of Massachusetts finally exonerated all those accused during the trials. Act 5. Impact on modern justice. The Salem Witch Trials were not just a religious tragedy, they were a legal disaster. But they sparked a reckoning. Out of fear and failure came change. Today, modern American justice, the right to a lawyer, the requirement of concrete evidence, protection against self-incrimination, is, in part, a response to what happened in Salem. We learned that fear must never overtake fairness, that due process is sacred, that justice, to be real, must be blind, not to facts, but to fear. The Salem Witch Trials are often remembered as a strange, faraway story, but their message is still relevant. In times of panic, we must remember what happened when suspicion was allowed to replace truth. The real danger was not witchcraft. The real danger was what people were willing to believe when they were afraid.